Friends and family, welcome to another live broadcast brought to you by Premier's Turning Point, with your host, Bishop Dr. Uton Lang, and co-host, Overseer Franklin Williamson. We pray and hope that something that is being said today will bless your soul and spirit. Please take a quick moment to like and share this broadcast with your friends and family. Thank you again for joining us. Let's go into our live program.
Welcome again to Premier's Turning Point. Bishop Dr. Uton Lang, and of course, you will hear from our co-host in a minute. But we just wanted to thank you for joining with us this evening to share with us as we continue to just get out the information that is current. And today we're still talking about the coronavirus, being that there's a lot of movement, a lot of things going on. Areas are trying to open back up. And so we wanted to make sure everybody had a good understanding of what it is that they should be doing, or how they should be conducting themselves, especially as we start to see the reopening process, especially in the Northeast. We know we are getting ready to have some more things open up in New York, New Jersey, and such alike. So we want everybody to make sure you join, you share with your friends, and get any of your questions and anything that you have still outstanding answered. I know one of my younger daughters had her first immunization today of the Pfizer, and she is doing well. She's a person with a lot of, regular allergies, but did very well. And so we want everybody just to get the information. Remember, Premier's Turning Point, we're about giving out information, letting you get well educated on all the various topics. Right now, we are on the coronavirus issue, and then you can take that information, do your research, check with your doctor, check with your pastor, and then come up with a plan of action for yourself. The Lord Jesus is really here to help us, and we're going to take all of the knowledge that He has given us and use it to the best of our ability. And that's what we're about, using all the information that is available to us to then bring about the expected end that God has planned for us. Right now, Overseer Franklin Williams is going to just speak a little bit, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you, Dr. Lang. Just want to greet our viewers, our listeners, and all those who are tuning in virtually. Just want to encourage you again. This is Overseer Franklin Williamson, pastor out of the Northeast section of the Bronx, 3818 Barnes Avenue, where there's a group of people who just love the Lord and love to share His word. Today we are continuing with the coronavirus, and as you may have heard and are aware that the New York City Mayor de Blasio has declared July 1st as fully open. July 1st as fully open. So we're going to talk about that. What does that look like, and what does that really mean, and how we should conduct ourselves. So again, share, like, and invite your friends, invite your loved ones, as we can have an interactive session this evening on the reopening of our country. God bless you. God bless you. Stay tuned.
Yes, so it's really very important that everybody understand that for us, for this to all work, we all have to work together. And I think we have to have an understanding. We have to work along with the science, and then, of course, our personal issues, and then to work out together to see best how we will be able to move forward. One of the things that I want to just bring to everybody's attention is, there's been a major, and before we get into some of our reopening, there's been a major, second wave in India. And it's really devastating. We're talking about 400,000 people a day being infected, and the death rate is so high. So we don't want to get to the stage where we ended up in that same place later on. So I think, it's going to be important that we follow the various instructions and the details and the plans from the CDC as we move forward with this reopening. And, we still realize that mask wearing is still essential, especially if you're inside. We thank God that right now, if you have been fully vaccinated, and you're going to be outside, there's especially with not many people, then you probably will be all right to be without your mask. But that's only if you're around people that are fully vaccinated and you're outside in a small group. All the indoor gatherings are still have various amount of restrictions that we must follow. I know they're opening up the restaurants a little bit more and some of the other things, but we need to make sure we are tuned to what's going on and make sure we're just following all of that. I know they're also talking. I know what's up with the schools in New York, Overseer?
Yes, New York City schools, school is kind of winding down, so they're focusing on vaccination. And yes, they're looking forward to opening, but it's still a parent choice. It's a parent option, and 30%, have opted to return. So there's still 70% of the parents who have decided to keep their children home. They're also doing studies to see the impact of remote learning. Did students really slipped? And if they slip, in what category, what age group, and maybe what content area? So, they're looking to see if the hybrid approach, especially for the upper grades, for high school, grade 9 through K, and the colleges are also assessing what it would look like come September. I know for many colleges, they're rolling out the vaccination as a mandatory if you are planning on having your child dorm on campus. They will require that your child uh, is vaccinated. The challenge that not only the schools are having, but the nation is how do we validate? What system can we use to prove, to authenticate that a person has been vaccinated? So we see where the sports arenas are opening up and they're saying if you are gathering with folks who are vaccinated, there's a different type of metric. And if you're not, there's a different type of measurement. So the challenge there is how can we tell those who are vaccinated? So the schools are really depending on the parents and depending on the educators to give an option. But September is a few months away, and we may again see some changes as the city open up in July. July 4th is 3 days after July 1st. And if there's any kind of uptick, they will start seeing that in about 7 to 14 days based upon the science. So I think that's the latest here, Bishop.
Yeah, I think that's great, and we find that they're trying to see what's the best way. I know there's certain parts of the country or places people are challenging the mandatory return, for example, that is in colleges. I'm sure we're going to hear more about this over the course of the next few months. There's going to be challenges to whether can you mandate it, can you not mandate it, if it's an emergency use vaccine, can it be mandated, and all of that stuff. I think it's going to come down to what I think it really is going to come down to each person's choice as to how they see the whole issue, and do they realize from their standpoint that the best thing is to protect themselves and to protect others, and then take on and then follow some kind of guidelines in how they're going to do it. You're still going to have those people who gonna just want to do anything that they want to do and go back any way, shape, or form. But I think what you're going to find is that if this kind of system, if there's no kind of system for us to, make sure everybody is vaccinated or everybody's still wearing their mask, we're going to find ourselves back into a situation like we see in India right now. And we'll talk about that a little bit. They are having a major second wave. They had gone through a first wave where they thought everything was going fine, everything's going good, and they actually pretty much had opened back up pretty much everything. They have that place, things that had been opened back up until now they're having this second wave where people are just massively infected. And maybe there's more variants than in the first wave. And people they're so short on everything. I think the whole world is trying to help them out at this time. But I think, can you imagine? I want people to think Think about a place where the whole world is in that kind of situation. So this is one of the reasons why I think personally that one of the best things that we can all do right now is to be vaccinated, to prevent that major spread amongst our families, amongst our friends, amongst our communities, and eventually amongst our nation. I think the report was today that there's been about 100 million people that are fully vaccinated, just a little bit under a third of the population. And if we kept rate of vaccination going as in the past a month and a half, the past 100 days, we would be, by the time we get to May, June, July, we would be pretty much almost 80, 90% vaccinated. And I think, and since they're working on vaccines for the children to see if it's safe, right now I think it's deemed safe down to age 12, and they're working on the other age group comes by the time September roll around. Potentially, all those who want to be vaccinated could be. So I think right now one of the things to focus on giving out information so people understand, what the vaccine is and what it isn't. And I don't know if overseer, you're still hearing any resistance, and what are the kind of resistance you're still hearing?
Yes, there is hesitancy heavy in the brown and black community. As we are learning, is that now the production of the vaccine exceeds the acceptance rate. So there's a big fear that the vaccines will be spoiled before we can get them into arms. And the hesitancy that when I talk to just get some anecdotal feedback from a few of my friends and members of the church is they have heard of some folks who have really got ill after taking the vaccine. They've also heard of folks who have contracted the virus after taking the vaccine. So their position is, so then if you take the vaccine and you're still exposed to this virus and you caught the virus, why then should I vaccinate myself when I don't know what is the long-term effect of this vaccine? So what would you say to someone, who says, well, it's still a year, Pastor, it's still novel, and we don't know what will happen in 5 years, in 2 years, in 10 years from now. So what
I think, go ahead, finish your thought, yeah.
What answer would you give such a person? Because,
Well, I think a couple of things that you said that we have to clarify is, first of all, I think people need to get more details. One person said, I got the vaccine and I still got infected. What period of time, from the time they got the vaccine till they get this infection? Remember now, the incubation period is about 2 to 14 days. So basically, and then it takes about 2 to 3 weeks for the vaccine to become effective. So if you were inoculated with the infection, anyway from 2 to 14 days after you even got the vaccine, you could still come down with an infection because the vaccine would not have been protecting you just yet. So I think that's part of number one. So you have to be sure, what you're talking about. So if you were feeling a little bit down or a little or not even having any symptoms, but was technically already exposed to the virus, and you got the vaccine, anyway from 2 to 14 days, you could still be infected. And that's one of the reasons why we are still recommending the wearing of the mask and doing all the other necessary safety precautions, even after you've been vaccinated. And actually, those who are getting the 2-shot series, you're not fully vaccinated. Your immunity level is not up to par fully until 2 to 3 weeks after your second shot. So you see, anytime along that way, then there's still a possibility that you could get infected. Also, number two, there are more variants on the scene that the vaccine, as far as we could see right now, the vaccine is working relatively well against even the variants. but there may be some that are a little bit tougher, and then you may still get vaccinated and potentially, come down with it. Number three, the vaccine is not 100% effective in everybody, right? Remember from the studies, we're talking anywhere from 94, 95% for the Pfizer and the AstraZeneca, and we're talking about 65 to 70% for the J&J. So you could still potentially, still get the virus after that. One of the other pointers, however, though, is if you have been vaccinated and you contracted virus, we're seeing that all three are almost 100% effective against the worst form of the disease. So the good news is if you're vaccinated and get the disease, it's more likely that you're going to survive than if you got the disease and you weren't vaccinated. So that would be my answer. I know it's a roundabout answer, but that would be my answer to somebody who is hesitant about getting the vaccine.
So let me recap. So those three things. One, check the time when you got the shot, right? So there is like a 14-day immunization period. Well, not immunization, immunity period.
Incubation
Period, right? Before the antibodies. Then if it's the first shot, you are not fully, right, protected. So then after the second shot, then you also got another 14 days incubation period to monitor that yourself. Now you mentioned on the third, now the vaccine is not 100%, but it does help to mitigate the severe illnesses from the virus. So that is enough evidence to let someone really think. And as we always say, Dr. Lang, is talk to your primary care physician. You mentioned your daughter having, was it asthma or she has some
She
allergies?
has a severe peanut allergy.
Severe peanut allergy. And which one did she get, the Pfizer or the Moderna?
Pfizer.
Okay. All right. And so far,
yeah, and I think that you make some very good points. We don't want to tell people that, hey, just go get the vaccine. What we're saying is get the information, which we're trying to give out. Get a good understanding of the information, and then number two, involve your physician. Number three, I say involve your pastor. If you have any spiritual questions and inclination about this, and again, so you're getting all the information, and then you're making a decision based on that good grounded information. The issue that we're seeing is a lot of people, oh, I'm not getting the vaccine, this, that, and they're not paying attention to the facts. And that's really what we are saying here. There are a lot of factual information that are out there. Yes, there's a lot of false information, but if you get steered in the right direction, we're trying to do the best. The CDC is doing, your primary doctor, and even, your pastor, if you have any spiritual things, then you can see how you can then make a wholesome decision that's going to be good for you. And remember, I was just saying, I'm not holding it against anyone who decide after all of that you don't want to get immunized. I say, but keep staying in tune with information, and don't just bury your head under the sand and say, oh, I'm just not getting that. That's a vaccine. They're trying to do this to me, that to me. It's the mark of the beast. It's all of this stuff. All of that stuff is nonsense. You need to make sense out of it and make sure you're following and staying to the line and getting a good understanding. Then you can, you'll be able to, to make up your mind and, see where you stand. I mean, and a lot of the thing is, from my standpoint, a lot of the things, especially, one of the issues is even if you have a younger children, yes, they may not be as much prone to getting the disease, but they're getting it now even more so. And especially as we see more variants, they're going to be more than exposed. And a lot of them, we have seen children are dying as well. So the issue is the more of us that are protected, and therefore the virus does not have a vector, someone to spread in, it's going to cut down the development of even the variants. Because how does variants come about? The virus gets into a host, you or me, all right, and it goes to town and it says, all right, I'm here. I have this nice place to grow. It's time for me to make some changes so that they can't catch me. So this is what happens, and then you get the mutations and the variants come about. So the less hosts that are there for this virus to go to town and grow in, the less, the decrease in the amount of variants that we're going to see, the decrease in the amount of infection. And this is how that herd immunity works, because when we have a certain critical percentage that is covered, then, there's a minimal people for it to spread in. And so it's going to actually die off with time. So I think we have a great opportunity to, get ourselves protected, protect others. In my opinion, we have a great opportunity to, beat this pandemic if everybody are just being judicious and following the guidelines and doing the things that are necessary. And I think one of the things would be to get vaccinated.
Yep.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
talk to, because in my local church, when we come together and share, and the members share their hesitancy, one of the things they will reference is that they know someone who was vaccinated, caught the virus, and died as a result.
mm-hmm,
Now,
mm-hmm.
uh, when I probe further, just as you said, when were they vaccinated, right? And if
Mm-hmm.
was it after the incubation period or during that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did they have underlying circumstances, right?
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
don't just know the facts. Everyone is
Yeah.
unique, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I know this person died. I know she got vaccinated, and they make these alarms, and it just creates more hesitancy.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
but what I'm
Definitely.
yes, but what I'm
Mm-hmm.
asking folks to do is, I know people are very private, very personal, but as much as they will let you know, just ask
Mm-hmm.
some pointed questions, right?
Yes.
Did he or she have any underlying issues? Were they vaccinated, beyond 14 days of the incubation period? And, under what circumstance, right? As you said, it could be
Mm-hmm.
a stress, right? So
Yeah.
we have seen where many people who have been vaccinated and they have comorbidities, they have a lot of underlying issues, but they bounce back, Bishop. They
Mm-hmm.
bounce back. They didn't have to get on the oxygen meter. They didn't have to be hospitalized. They had just a little chills. Didn't even lose taste or smell. So they had diabetes. They had some were cancer survivors, right? And they went ahead and they got the vaccine, and months later they caught the virus. And what we are seeing, Dr. Ling, and help us with this, now that the schools are open, right? The grandmas were the ones who were homeschooling, because the
Mm-hmm.
parents were not to school. And we're learning that the caretaker is being infected by the children, and they bring it home. But then the children, they are asymptomatic. The only way
Yep.
you know is when you get a call from the school. So
Yep.
do we relax because we're now open, and because we know the children won't die, quote unquote? But how long do we wear this mask? How long do we sanitize? How long do we do all that?
Well, I think, you hit a few great points. One is there is still a lot of asymptomatic people out there, and the younger people tend to be. So you could say, but you see now, think about it this scenario. If our caretakers were immunized,
Mm,
then you see that will be the shield against even those asymptomatic people coming home and bringing it home. So you see, if you look at the whole picture, see, it goes back to the right now, the biggest thing we have to use to fight this thing is to get immunized, because you could see it would decrease on that spread of, the younger children who may be asymptomatic and, going, to schools, but that's, I think, really a big point that, would also is a big plus why we should be getting everybody immunized. And the other thing that you'll find is that with time, you see, again, if these kids, say example, come home, grandma is immunized, and so grandma is not really, you could expose her, she's not getting infected. You see, it kind of stops that chain. Versus grandma is not immunized, she gets COVID. She may have exposed some other children that she may also be watching, and then that the vicious cycle sets up, versus a break in the cycle when you hit that person who's immunized. So I think it's really, again, just kind of more ammunition for us to kind of encourage that immunization. And I think pretty soon, as I was saying earlier, we may see it's available for the younger and younger children to really put a stop to a lot of that kind of spread that we're seeing, because the younger children just seem to do better. Yes, one of the things we're seeing, and I think that is because a lot more of the older people are now immunized, we're seeing a bigger outbreak in the 30, 40, 50-year-old group, and a lot of them are doing very badly because they may be also getting a more resistant strain. So you see, it's a really comes down to, should we be, pushing everybody to get immunized? We're recommending it because we see it seems to make a difference. There's been some studies that things are improving in that group. And the point that you brought up regarding those people who may have gotten the vaccine and then got ill, as we said, it really depends on when, where, and how they got it, what point in that cycle. For example, even in the studies with the J&J vaccine, where we're seeing the blood clots, there's still some unanswered question, because we're seeing most of that incident is in younger females, like 50 and younger, and that is that more the childbearing group. Is there a higher use of birth control, for example, in that group? It's not clear yet. The study should bring that out. And, so see, this is why they went ahead and said, listen, the risk of getting a blood clot versus the risk of getting coronavirus, which is worse? Because one of the things which I think they should have stressed a little bit more, which I don't hear them stressing, is if you get the coronavirus, all right, it's not, yes, we see a lot of people who have recovered, and that's great, even some with comorbidities, as you've pointed out. However, there's quite a group of people who have, and that's maybe one or next week program or one of the other programs we talk about that. A lot of them with some long-term effects. Months after the virus, they're still having a various amount of issues. And also, one of the point that I really want to make is the incidence of even a blood clot among people who have had the coronavirus is very high. It's 10 times higher than the incidence in the regular population, or the incidence in those who have gotten the immunization. So that's something else to consider, that they're getting the coronavirus. What are then the long-term effects of potential long-term effects of actually being infected with the virus? So that's something that we may want to explore a little bit. And, maybe we could see if we could even get a couple of people who have had the virus who are still going through a lot of symptoms and a lot of things. Their lives have been totally disrupted and not being able to get back to work. A couple of people are not being able to walk proper, So I think you have to look at the big picture. That's what I'm really trying to bring out, that everybody needs to be aware of that. I'm sure you have run into some of those issues that I've just been talking about. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I have a pastor friend of mine who I will bring back on. He came on once. He
Yes.
contracted the virus, and he does have some long-term effects of this virus. And he would be one of a great guests to bring on this program again to let us know the long-term effects. And sometimes they're called the forgotten, because we're focusing primarily on preventatives, measures, but we are not monitoring those who have tested negative, but they have had a heart condition. Their lungs have become porous, so therefore their breathing now is shallow. And so you don't want to catch this virus. So you want to do everything to protect yourself. So we're still encouraging, wear the mask. A few weeks ago they said double up the mask, and still wash your hands, still sanitize the areas until we really know we're out of the clear. The hospital beds are still at not the high capacity, but still more than the average. So we are not out. It's not behind us. We are still in it, but the city has decided to reopen. And we're going to talk about reopening because I have the list here. And if you permit me, Bishop, let me just segue into that.
Good segue.
Our New York City Mayor de Blasio have announced that July 1st, 100%. Now, I kind of chuckled because let me read the list for you. Now, 100%, and it says this means that restaurants and bars, stores, shops, and small businesses, hair salons, barbershops, gym, fitness clubs, arena, stadiums, theaters, museums, and then they excluded shows on Broadway. Now, I didn't see the details behind that, but in my thinking, shows on Broadway are live shows where you have actors, performers, and they are actively speaking, unlike a movie theater, unlike in a barbershop, unlike in a gym. And when I think of Broadway, there's also no mention about the church, right? Should the church be 100%? So I just want us to have a little dialogue. What are the thoughts around that? Why they exclude Broadway and said not ready for Broadway, but they have opened up everything else. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think the issue with Broadway was the kind of the one you brought up, and that's why you notice they're reopening Broadway, but on a limited level, just to decrease the exposure. Because remember that it's totally inside. I'm not sure what are the ventilation systems in some of these older theaters, and then you're going to have people actively dancing, speaking, singing, all the things that are a little putting more risk of spread. So, and I think this is one of the reasons they're being a little bit more cautious there. I think because even with you wearing a mask, if the concentration of the virus in the air is so high, then you still have a risk. It's decreased with the mask, but there's still a risk. As a matter of fact, and there is a couple of churches in our area that
Yes.
have now reclosed on their own, just like for a short period because they have had outbreaks, and where I think they're seeing it is amongst the ministers and the praise teams and the choirs.
Wow.
And again, that goes back to my contention. Remember what I'm always talking about, and this is why even in our congregation we are masked for everything: preaching, singing, reading, even our young lady dancing in a mask. So I think, that just I think this is why Broadway is, being a little bit delayed, because when they think of those circumstances, those are the things that go on. And again, and I've not, you're right, though, I've not heard much what they're saying in terms of the church. I know they didn't decrease the number, but as
Right.
the numbers for inside increase, once you can distance, you can, I think it's up to about 50%, and it may go up a little bit higher in our area. And once you can distance and then, still are following the guidelines. But one of my contention is, and I really, again, you know how strong they feel about this. I think the churches are not following the rules completely, because when they say mask inside, there's too many of them running around doing so many things and not wearing a mask. It's just my little issue. Again, people don't take it personal. I'm taking it personal. And that's why I've lived to that standard, because that's why I think we're seeing such a more resurgent, and that's why. And actually, that's one of the reasons some of the bigger churches just opted not to even reopen at all yet until,
Yeah,
and they're doing
yeah.
total virtual. But I think if you are opening and you can do the distancing and you do the mask, and I think I can't stress enough the mask, then you should be all right. And I think we could go up to, we'll see if they increase the percentage, and I think they will probably increase it up to 75, and then if that goes well, increase it to 100 for churches, I think, pretty soon. But I think
Yeah.
people in church, you have to realize that you're people as well, and you need to follow the rules and follow the guidelines that are
Well, well,
there. You know.
well, Bishop, the bone of contention is you go to work, you go to school, so why can't we go to church? That is the argument,
I know
and
it's a good argument. It's a good argument, but I think the answer to that is not saying. I need remember now. Thank God they're not closed the church down. They're
no,
saying we need to take precautions, and the same thing goes for work. If you're gonna go the workplaces that have adhered to the rules, like one of my daughters been working the whole time. All right, she's working with the warehouse that do a lot of stuff in there, but they have adhered to the rules. They have all their people in mask. They have ventilation system going, and actually, what they do if a person actually becomes positive, they can close down for about 24 hours, do a deep cleaning, and then reopen back up. But they have not had a lot. I mean, they've had people who, because they're workers, maybe asymptomatic and then come, but once they find a person is positive, they take the appropriate steps. Yes, they're distancing and they're wearing their mask. And my daughter, my same daughter who has the allergy, she's been working the whole time.
yeah. And
You
what
know,
I say to that to Bishop is not so much you go to work, why can't you go to church?
hmm
It's all the medication uh, process that they put in place, right? You are
Yes,
not singing at work. You're not singing at work. You're not,
exactly. Mhm.
utilizing your vocal cords like we do in church. So it's a whole
Yes,
different atmosphere.
different.
And
hmm
even if you're talking at church, it's not a group. We have not returned to a choir for that reason. We don't have a
Yes,
lot of square footage. So even if they say, 75%, we got to look at 6 feet. There's so much
yeah. You
space.
still have to do the distances. Yeah. Now,
So,
if
so
everybody's immunized, you probably could go down to 3 feet.
right, right.
Yeah.
And
So you see,
that was
the immunization, yeah, has a lot of positives, I think, even for a church, because the contention is if you had 80, 90% of people immunized, and there's a few people that are not, you could actually, not that you discriminated, but you could actually see those people even further from everybody else, but the rest of
mhm,
the people could be together. So you see, I think there's a lot of pluses to getting protected, and then while you're not protected, I think the minimum is, as you said, wash hands, sanitize, wear the mask, and improve the. I mean, it's kind of to be summer, so you can open your windows probably more, you know, and put on the fan, So there's other things you can do, but I think you're right it's even if say we tell the church can be open 100%, is 100% with distance. It's not 100% with no precautions at all unless everybody's immunized.
right, right,
You
right,
know,
right.
and I'm not gonna hold everybody to is a mandatory thing, but the more, and I guess we're gonna be merrier because the more we're gonna be able to do more things. And I think as more people are immunized, you see this is one of the reasons why they can even embark on trying to open everything up. Because if you
Right.
have that critical mass immunized, and then everybody are still watching and wearing the mask when you're in a crowd, then we're still going to cut down the transmission rate quite a bit. hmm
So what,
Yeah.
what do you think about the churches having some type of survey or poll among their membership and to get a read? So then either education, either making some decisions. Would you think that'd be something, be a
That
good,
would be something worthwhile. And we did a mini poll among our people, just to
Yeah.
kind of see, what do people think. I mean, I think we still have a few people who not deciding to be immunized yet, and that's fine. But I think, when we need to get a handle on it, though, and, I think we should repoll, and then, of course, give more education, repoll, and see where we are. And I think that's the same thing. The one good thing that you notice in this country now, any radio station, anything you listen to, you see there you were seeing now a lot more of yes, the negative is still there, but you kind of have to kind of search for that on social media. But all the mainstream media are really, touting the benefits of vaccination and all of that stuff, because even our little local radio station have public service announcements from the government. You see, that's the difference I think we're seeing now compared to a few months ago. I
Yeah.
think we're opening up, and actually we have to be aggressively, courting the population, because we want, if you want more people immunized, you have to give out the information. And I've seen some of that change some attitudes. I've seen our
Right.
program have changed quite a bit of attitudes. My
Yes.
talking to my personal patients have changed a lot of attitudes. So that's why we have to keep doing this. We just have to keep, the negative is out there. Hey, that's their part. We just got to give the facts, straight
Yeah.
up, share what we know, and then, let people, and of course, if we're people of integrity, people will understand what's the truth and what's not the truth, you know.
Yeah. And I've talked to a few of my, colleagues, minister
Hmm.
friends, and they
Yeah.
said, Pastor, you are one of my test case
Yep.
because you
Hmm.
took this COVID
Yes.
vaccination, and
Hmm.
your wife took it, and your dad. I mean,
Yeah.
so it kind of lends some credibility, right? So
Yes.
I do
Hmm.
believe that pastors and membership, have a testimony service on Zoom,
Yeah.
right? And kind of
Hmm.
share, and if there's even any side effects and they were severe or not severe, you are still here, right?
Hmm.
And just having this dialogue now, I may do that, right? To have folks who have taken, because you may even assume that this person didn't take it.
Yes. Yes. Hmm.
Because some people are just very private, and maybe
Yes.
they maybe they have been anti-vaxxer, but given their line of work, right,
Yes.
they
Hmm.
find themselves had to take the vaccination. So I think that's something that churches can do, get a closed Zoom testimony service, where folks come in and you close it up so you know who is there, and just huddle with the saints, let them
Hmm.
talk about this and educate them. We have done it a few times, but I think now, we are further along, and more for our seniors, Bishop, to be quite frank. Our seniors were kind of the next phase that went out the gate, because they're the ones who want to be in church,
Yeah.
because they don't readily adapt to technology and the Zoom
Yeah.
and this. They just want to be in the presence of the Lord, physical
Yeah.
presence. So they have really, been not as hesitant as some of
That's
the
true. Yeah,
middle age
that's
folk.
true.
So I've seen
and then
seniors.
and then and then a lot of our seniors have comorbidities, so I think they were also trying to protect themselves. You're right. If you polled for the majority of our seniors have really been jumping and taking care of it, and I'm happy to see it's kind of come around. And I think as it's even more available, are seeing a lot more of our other young people is now stepping up. Some of them is because of their line of work, you're right, but they're stepping up and doing this. And I think I really have confidence, that
Yes.
with a little bit more time, we're going to see the predominant amount of people. There will still be a few people who, want to wait and see, but one thing we can do, just make publicize as much as we can. And you're right, even those people who are not shy, and they may want to put a statement, we can throw it on our Facebook, I mean, we do whatever, to get the word out that, hey, I got vaccinated for this reason, I'm doing well, I got vaccinated, I may have had a side effect, but such alike. And I think it's important that we share, that we
Yes.
share. And I think
Yes.
that's going to go a much bigger way than me just telling you get vaccinated, when you
Right.
see other people, doing it. But I think one of the things for us not to hide behind either, and if we have anybody, and so we're going to be putting a poll out trying to find people who have had the especially before the vaccine, that had been infected with a COVID virus, especially are having some long-term symptoms, because we can help people prevent those long-term symptoms if they get
Yes.
vaccinated. So I
Right.
think that's
Right.
an important one point to bring out as well. And we need people to understand that, I mean, there's nothing in this personally, for me, more than seeing people healthy and people, living. I did have the misfortune of losing a sister, but she had a lot of comorbidities, and such like. So maybe that's how the reasons why I'm strong about this. Also, when death have hit your family,
Yes.
you want to, you start to really think, well, could there anything else have been done? I think what was her issue is she lived in Florida. That's my point. But anyway, that's another story. But she lived in Florida, and because she had to be, because of her medical condition, had to be 3 times a week going out into the public. And of course, for a while there, Florida was not, preventing. They were
Yes.
semi opened up. So I think, those are the things to look at the circumstances surrounding, all of that. And that's why I'm saying every even death that happened, we are sorrowful and we are, there for the families. But I think it's a learning thing to also to look at the circumstances surrounding,
Right.
especially if it was COVID related. And as a matter of fact, as I'm saying right now, one things we're seeing, and that's why I'm warning all the churches, we're seeing outbreaks in churches, and I can trace it right back to singing, preaching, and doing all the things without masks. I mean, it's clear. It's clear as day. So therefore, we should take the necessary precautions and do the necessary things to try our best to prevent, all of this, the spread. And if we can hold down the spread, we can, in a little while, all right, we'll have that herd immunity present, where, after a while, over the next few months, we should see a significant waning of the
Yeah.
disease, and and such like, and to where we can go back to pretty much normal. One of the things I also wanted to point out, we actually learned a few other things from wearing the mask. The influenza season was much less,
Oh
and I
yes.
think
That.
that was directly related to people in mask. All right, and
Yes.
as a matter of fact, if you look at
Distancing.
some of the Asian countries over the years, if we see that they're a little bit different from us. They're not so proud. The minute they have the sniffles, they throw a mask on. This has
Yes.
been going on in China, in Vietnam, some of these places. And if you look, even on a regular, even before the coronavirus, a lot of those people were running around in masks. And you know what? They were curtailing some of these droplet spread disease quite a bit. So that's something for us to learn. And maybe somebody has to come up with an invisible mask, where, I'm actually dead serious. Put an invisible mask. Can you imagine, that
Well,
you could have on and nobody knows you have it on? Because, part of Americans' problem is we're just too proud, people seeing me
yes.
in a mask, It's
Yeah.
simple as that, why some people won't wear the mask. It has nothing to do with protect yourself. It's just a mindset. So maybe
Well,
we have to spend some research and development in that area,
yeah. They have
Yeah,
the transparent glass. They have the
yeah,
transparent.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I want invisible, you know.
Invisible all the way.
Yes, invisible
The,
all the way, Yeah.
the next thing
So,
in the
so I
news.
think, go ahead.
The next thing in the news, there, Dr. Lang, is um, I heard from Dr. Fauci saying that they possibly could be a third wave, late
Yes.
October, early November.
Yeah.
And here
Yes.
is the part that alarms. He's saying that the contributing factor would be the population that had not received the vaccines.
Yes.
So, and um,
Especially if it's bigger amount. Okay. Remember, especially
yeah,
that's why he's pushing. So there's a possibility, if we don't get to that critical mass. All right. That So for example, say we only get to 50%, even 60. So then
right.
you're talking about 40 to 50% of people who potentially, so you could have a third wave, in
Mm,
that group. Because if we don't have it down enough, where
right.
the transmission is so reduced that this virus almost gives up, thinking of it that way, if we don't have it so diminished, once there's hope for that virus, they're going to try to do their thing. So that's why he's warning against that, especially if we don't get more people immunized. hmm And it's serious because,
Yeah.
look at India's second wave.
No, that
Yeah,
is
look at
alarming.
that. I mean,
That
we're
is alarming.
talking people just dropping dead right, left, center, and of course, you use up the resources. They don't
Yes.
have enough oxygen. They definitely don't have enough beds. Listen, they have the crematoriums running 24/7
Mm.
because they do a lot more cremation, but they're doing 24/7. This one facility said they used to do 5 to 10 cremations a week. They're doing 200 a day.
Mm.
It is really, and I think we should look at, we have to, look, where's that scripture? Look to the end, thou sluggard. So we have to
Yes.
look at whatever else is going on around us,
Yes.
and
Yes.
use that as also in our mindset, in our planning. And I think it's something to really be aware of, what's going on in other parts of the world. hmm Yep.
Yep. Yep.
Because if
So
we just leave this unchecked, hmm go ahead.
yeah. So it's a matter of encouraging, our friends and families, and for those who are still apprehensive, seek information. Knowledge is power. The Bible said in Chronicles, "My people are destroyed because of ignorance." So, if you still hesitant, and maybe you have a reason, you have consulted your primary care physician, and he or she has said to you, "You know what? Take this cocktail instead," right? And maybe you're
Yeah.
taking something else, but not to even have a sit down conversation with your doctor and listen to the rumors and listen to all the WhatsApp stuff and say, "No, I'm not taking it." I think it's somewhat reckless.
Yes.
I
hmm
think sit down, get information, get the right information, and then make the decision. And then
hmm
make the decision.
And if
Because
it's
as you
a,
said,
and if it's a and if it's a
go ahead.
spiritual hesitation, sit down with your pastor. You know,
Absolutely.
you know, you know. If
Yeah, I will walk them through the scriptures. Absolutely.
yes, hmm
Because there are some well-known TV gospel
oh yeah,
station that really against
yes,
vaccination, and they made it
hmm
clear, right? But
yes.
but I have heard them now. Let me say this: in the last 4 weeks, they have changed their tone.
I've seen changes, yes, and that's why I'm very hopeful. I've definitely seen
They have
some
changed
changes.
their tone,
Yeah,
especially now when they're seeing the statistics, when they show the
yeah,
graph, of the states that really have embraced vaccination, right?
yes,
And states that did not. And you can see the numbers trending in the right way downwards for those states that embrace vaccination. The ones that didn't, their numbers are still climbing.
yes.
So
As
there's
a
definitely,
matter of fact, it's
go ahead.
amazing you point that out because you remember New Jersey, for some reason our rate could not go down below 12. All of a sudden we're down to 4, or less than 4.
Yeah, New York is like,
And it's just a
yeah,
direct relation to the immunization rate. Mhm.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
Mhm.
yes. So,
So,
so
so, so, so keep
every,
listening, I think. And I think,
yep.
I mean, there's definitely areas where we see that the vaccine has made a difference. And as a matter of fact, I wish be honest with you, some of the same people who are telling people not to be vaccinated, they've been vaccinated.
Uh,
Trust
oh,
me.
I
Yeah.
don't want that
hmm
hypocrisy. You know,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
don't want that hypocrisy. I do believe
Yes.
that they have been
hmm
vaccinated.
Yes, quite a bit of them have been. Because for a matter of fact, our folks, our last commander in chief got vaccinated, and most people didn't even know it. I mean, and I think, and a lot of those people who were out there holding up the flag to not do it were already vaccinated. So listen, people, you need to look out for yourself.
Yep,
Each one of
yep.
you need to look out for yourself and look out for the well-being of your family and your children, your grandparents. You need to do that. So I want you to take it upon yourself to look into the facts for yourself and then come up with that decision, what you want to do. We're here to give out whatever information you need. If you have more questions, email us, write to us, call us. We'll answer them. Thank God for Overseer Franklin, who was a very open, to talk about it. And I am more than open to talk about it. So here you have a source that will give you the up-to-date, the latest information. And I will even go over the controversial information with you, because
Absolutely.
there is reasons some people are reserved. I back that up.
Yeah.
However, you look at the thing. It's the one thing that really, and I'm going to repeat it again, that I really looked at this week that made an impression on me, even though I was already convinced. Even when it comes to, even if it's only the J&J vaccine is available to you, take it. And here's the
Yeah.
reason why. The risk of a blood clot in the regular population is about 2%. That means 2% of people, whether you got a shot or you got nothing, would still get a blood clot. The rate amongst the vaccinated people were less than 0.1%.
Mm.
The risk of getting a blood clot after having the coronavirus infection is 10 to 20% more than in any of the other groups. So therefore, your risk of a blood clot is more likely if you get the coronavirus than any
Mm.
other reason. So therefore, I want people, that's just sort of to give you an example of facts right now, because if you
Yeah.
hear, if you just listen, 5 in a million people had a blood clot from the J&J. Oh my God, 5 people. Okay, 10 people a year without getting anything get the blood clots. And then if you
And
have the coronavirus, 30 people a year is going to get a blood clot. So
and
you
and
got to
there's
look at, go ahead.
and there's a report that I saw on the news, I'm going to watch it again, where someone who was ill, they
Mm-hmm,
said after they got the vaccine,
mm-hmm,
that illness they have been carrying for years somehow,
mm-hmm.
has been
Yep.
cured, right?
Mm-hmm,
So there
mm-hmm.
are some positive
Yes.
effects of the vaccine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Again, it's being
Yeah.
novel, not
Yeah.
knowing exactly what it will or will not do. So
Mm-hmm.
that was alarming, to
Yeah.
see that folks, are saying that they used to have this ailment, and the only contributing factor is the vaccine. Why
Mm-hmm.
their mom?
Yeah. Listen, I think we're going to learn a lot more over the course of time.
Yes.
People are saying, well, are we going to learn a lot more negative stuff? I think a lot of the negative stuff is kind of upfront. And yes, you may have a person who coincidentally got the vaccine and something major happened. It's possible. But as I said to everybody, what are the risks of you walking down the street, and you're either run over by a car? Look at those people at this restaurant,
Ooh.
those outdoor restaurant, the cars just level it. Look at, for example, the policeman on his job, doing, his risk, of getting something from the vaccine was much lower for him than being killed by a car. So
Yes.
it's all relative. Don't get stuck on, oh, well, this is this. Listen, as my wife always says, and especially those of you from Jamaica, when we were young, they just lined you up in school and gave us a shot. They didn't even ask your parents anything. They didn't ask anybody anything. It was shot day, you got a shot. Okay. And most of us survived. 99.999% of us survived that. So, yes, we are
Yeah.
more educated and have more knowledge, so we question more. And I have no problem in questioning, but get the right facts. Mhm.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Okay, last
I
word,
just
sir.
I just want to encourage, my fellow listeners and co-pastors to encourage your membership to still uh, get tested often, at least twice per month. This will help the study. This will help research. This will help them to pinpoint to see if there is a new variant that is surfacing, or even if you have been vaccinated, still get tested. It doesn't hurt, doesn't do any harm. And this way, you yourself can have this confidence that you are well and healthy. So I thank you for listening. Please, we're not out of this pandemic. As the city opens up, be cautious. As you can hear, it's not yet been approved by the state. That's one. And two, Broadway is exempt, which I think that correlates to the same operation of the church. So churches don't think now this is a license for us to run out there and swing the doors wide open. Let's be prudent as we have been down through the months and seek God. Create a plan to reopen your church as we did in closing, but create a plan now to reopen your church. God bless you as we continue to tune in to Turning Point every Saturday at this time.
All right. We thank you for joining us today. And we're just excited about sharing, because, if we can help one person, that's more than we helped the day before. And the same as is, if we can direct one person to Christ, that makes us very happy. And, so if we can keep you around so that we have a chance to talk to you about Christ, that's make us happy as well. So we want everybody to stay tuned, listen. If you have questions, write to us, email us, text us. All the information is on the screen. If you want to keep us supported, give as well, and just let God bless you. So have a wonderful week, and we will see you next week. Blessings, 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 one and all.
Family, what an awesome time we just had. To all our first-time guests, we truly appreciate you for joining our live broadcast. We would like to hear from you, so please send us your comments, questions, or testimonies of how this program has impacted your life. Our email address is info@pflmi.org. Finally, if you feel led at any time to give to this ministry, please visit us at pflmi.org and click on the tab for donations. You can also give via Cash App at $PFLMIORG. We're looking forward to meeting with you live on next week's program. Have a blessed and prosperous weekend.